Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call this council meeting of Tuesday, May 14th, 2024 to order. Adoption of the agenda has been moved by Councillor Shahal and seconded by Councillor Gibson. And all those in favor, the motion carries. And adoption of one set of minutes from May 7th, 2024, moved by Councillor Gleason, seconded by Councillor Barkman. Any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Motion carries, and we will go right down to reports, and I will turn it over to staff.
Mr. Mayor, item 7.1 is the interim housing target progress report. Following a staff presentation, recommendations will be for council for consideration.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So yeah, I'm here to present the interim housing target progress report. And just to kind of keep this in context, there are a few housing things going on. So we wanted to just highlight the fact that this is housing targets. It is not Housing Accelerator Fund, and it's not small scale multi-unit housing or transit-oriented areas. It is in fact housing targets, so we're just going to focus on that. I'm going to start by talking about the Housing Supply Act, the Housing Target Order, the progress the city's made, and next steps, and then answer questions. So the housing targets started with Bill 43 in 2022. It enables the province to establish housing targets and a process for evaluating progress on those targets and addressing compliance. The regulation that came into effect in May of 2023, that should say 2023, identifies 47 municipalities that are subject to the targets, and we were one of 10 of the first. The regulation also has some detail about setting targets and progress reporting. So the first annual report, the reporting period is October 1st of 2023 through September 30th of 2024. We're now submitting an interim progress report, which is October 1st through March 31st of 2024. And hereafter, it will only be annual reports. So we'll kind of start with the framework here. Ultimately, the city is responsible for enabling 7,240 units, and the province had given us a certain number of units per year cumulatively that they thought we should try to work towards in order to meet that 7,000 total. And this shows you per year what they think that should look like. So for this first year, what we have determined is that the city has enabled 403 net new units to receive final or occupancy. And net means that there were some demolitions, so this is the new units minus demolitions. So that is those that have received occupancy. And this gives you sort of a breakdown of what kinds of units those were: apartments, townhouses, etc. And it also, let's see, yeah, sorry about that. Oh no, it's not going backwards. There we go. This is the types of units. These are the kinds of applications that were approved that enabled those. Wait, I'm getting confused. Let me try that again. Sorry, okay, so this is the number of units that received occupancy. There we go. Also in that time frame, and we just wanted to kind of emphasize this, is that there were also approvals for additional units beyond those that received occupancy. So this list identifies an additional 710 units that have actually received some sort of an approval either from council or staff through council. And this identifies those approvals. In addition to this number, there is also 2,615 units that have received approval in principle. So essentially, these are units where someone has applied for a rezone and gotten third reading on that rezoning. And so we're just waiting for conditions from the applicant to be met. So if all of that were taken into account, we would be well over half of our total target. We also wanted to point out that in that time, there were 13 applications that were withdrawn by the applicant. Applicants voluntarily did that. And in that time frame, there were 0 applications denied. Also in this time frame, the city took other actions that moved us towards more housing units more quickly. We're undertaking an OCP update. We have successfully applied for the Housing Accelerator Fund, which identifies 7 initiatives that will move us towards building more housing units. We're starting to implement provincial legislation around housing. We've undergone a development approval process review, et cetera. So this is our list, which we think is pretty substantial. And then we wanted to just kind of point out that the report itself has several tables in it where we've been asked to identify certain categories of units. And that includes the number of bedrooms and whether they were rented or owned, below market or market. And you'll note in our housing report that there are some categories that are not complete. The data is not complete. In particular, bedroom data, we have not in the past collected that data with our permitting. So we've had to undergo a process by which we now change our permitting system so that we can now collect that data. And we've actually hired a co-op student to collect historic data around bedrooms so that future reports can have more accurate data. But it's taken a lot of time and effort on staff's part to kind of get us up to speed to be able to report in the way that the province wants us to report. We also kind of concede to the fact that rental versus owned may continue to be a problematic category. We may not have complete data because we're not always aware of whether or not units end up being rented. And we're also not always aware of whether they're below market. Those decisions often happen outside of the permitting process. So we'll do our best at reporting those going forward, but this kind of gives you an idea of the number of units in each category that the province has us shooting for. And so once we are done with this meeting, the next step is to submit this report to the Minister of Housing, post to the city website, and then work towards the next report, which would be in November. And this is our recommendation. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Move the recommendation.
Recommendations moved by Councillor Lowe and seconded by Councillor Ross. Comments, Councillor Lowe.
Thanks for that report. I noticed on one of the slides you just glossed over a very important point, but I think for the record, for the public that is watching it, I think it's notable that the city has decreased the building permit wait times from 23 weeks down to 4 to 6 weeks.
Yes.
My question is, over what time period are we talking here?
Right. Mr. Neal, would you like to?
Yeah, I can address that. Thanks. Through the mayor to Councillor Lowen. That was, the process was primarily a result of a building permit process review that we've undertaken with a consultant to help us with that work, which resulted in digitizing our building permit process. So that was about a 12-month time frame to go from 22 weeks down to the 4 to 6 weeks that you cited.
Very good, thank you.
Great. Councillor Shahal and then Councillor Dreesen.
Thank you for your report. I'm just curious about supply chain issues and all that. So once applications are approved, are you noticing any trend? Are people building right away? Are they sitting on it?
I don't know. You want to answer? Try that one, Blake.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Your Worship, through the council. One of the biggest questions I get asked right now is how do I keep my application open and alive? Market conditions aren't certainly conducive to a quick build. Marketing is taking much longer, and so the team is struggling on how to keep these applications open and alive so that we don't have to start the approvals process over again.
Thank you. Councillor Dreesen.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to recognize and thank the staff for the report and all the information that's been provided. I know you're working on it on top of the OCP update and Bill 44 and Bill 47. So I really appreciate the detailed report. I was going to also mention Councillor Lowen's comment about the building permit because I don't think that is something that should be, I do think that's something that should be recognized. And then also just comment that I appreciate that things are trending in the right direction. And as you had mentioned, the permitting numbers are also coming up, which at the end of the day, I think is just as important, if not as important, as getting those occupancy numbers. So I think it's exciting and good work, and thank you for the report.
Councillor Gibson.
Yeah, thank you. Good information and helpful. My question is, what's the source or the genesis of housing targets? Where did they come from? Did they talk to us first, asking us what I don't think they did. What targets can we expect, and then encourage us, or is this just a figure, an abstract figure from out in space somewhere?
Through the mayor. So the regulation came out in May of 2023. That indicated that we were first. After that regulation came out or came into effect, the ministry met with staff over the course of 2 or 3 meetings, and they went through some elements of the methodology, but it wasn't entirely clear what the methodology was for determining how the numbers came about. We've been under the impression and kind of been given some indication from them that the methodology that they used will be clearer once the guidelines for housing needs reports come out. But that's kind of the latest that we've heard on that.
I guess my supplementary comment is I think it's a shame because we're trying to do the best we can here. Staff are on the ball, council's endorsing this initiative, and yet these targets are so ethereal. It's so frustrating. Can we meet them well? I think it puts a lot of pressure on our city that really is not, it's beyond, a lot of it's beyond our control, frankly. So I think it's a shame.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Because I have had some very pointed discussions with the methodology as far as the occupancy is quite troubling because as has been staff have mentioned, trying to keep these alive because the market isn't quite where we need it to be. That's our big challenge, and that's what I've had those pointed discussions with the minister on. Abbotsford is well positioned to meet our targets, and we are doing everything within our power to be able to address the housing challenges. But along with that comes employment and comes the economy and a number of things that are beyond our control. And I find it interesting that senior levels of government are trying to assist us in solving the housing crisis, but they're in our lane, and they need to clearly be in their lane as far as taxation and economy and interest rates, and all of those things are beyond our control. So I do find that somewhat interesting. However, I don't want to go too far down that path because I could get myself into trouble. But I appreciate this work, and I know that we're going to have those conversations with the province. Councillor Barkman.
So are these targets in effect till the election and then we wait, and could some of this change after election? Or is this in stone?
Yeah, it is currently an act and a regulation, and so if there were a new election, the regulation would have to be rescinded, or whatever that pathway is. The legislation and regulation would have to be changed in order for it to change.
Great. Great. No, I appreciate staff leaning in and really, they try to portray this in the media as the naughty list, and I think Abbotsford's on the list because we're probably one of the few municipalities that actually is able to achieve, as long as we have the supports that we need with keeping the economy on the roll. So, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
Mayor. Item 7.2 is a development variance permit application for the property located at 4081 Clearbrook Road. Prior to council's consideration of approval of the development variance permit, staff will provide a brief introduction.
Great, and just before we get into that staff report, I do believe there's a council member that has a recusal.
I think for the abundance of caution, I'll recuse myself. My grandchildren go to school at it.
Great. Thank you. We'll just let Councillor Chahal. Great, and please proceed.
Perfect.
That way.
That's great, that's fine. Thank you very much. The subject property is the Mennonite Educational Institute. The subject property is located at the intersection of Downs Road and Clearbrook Road. Subject lands are located in the ALR, and council may recall this application from a previous non-farm use approval. That was forwarded to the ALC by council with support, and the ALC subsequently approved the additions and renovations contemplated under this application. Subject lands are designated institutional by the 2016 official community plan and are presently zoned P3, which is our assembly zone, and this zone is considered appropriate for the proposed school that is located on the subject lands. The property is located in a natural environment development permit area and a steep slope development permit area. However, through the review process, it was determined that neither of these would be applicable to the proposed renovations occurring inside this application. At this time, the applicant is proposing to construct an 1,850 square meter addition to the existing school and to raise the height of the existing gymnasium. At this time, the applicant has requested a variance to increase the permitted building height from 9.8 meters to 13.51 meters in order to accommodate these renovations. City staff have no concerns with the variance request and recommend council proceed as highlighted in the recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Drewson, seconded by Councillor Barkman. And we'll open up the comments or questions from council. I don't see any. Yeah, it looks great, and good to see the seismic upgrades as well, because that's safety and all of those things. So yeah, good to see the expansion and the renovations. All those in favor? Motion carries. Next item, please. Oh, yes, sorry, Councillor Chahal is just going to return. Great.
Item 8.1 is bylaw 3263, 2022, which is amendment 440 to the city zoning bylaw for the property located at 27820 Swenson Avenue. This bylaw is ready for adoption.
Move adoption.
Adoption's been moved and by Councillor Lowen, seconded by Councillor Chahal. And any comments or questions? Nice to see this over the finish line. All those in favor? The motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 8.2 is bylaw 3165, 2021, which is amendment 380 to the city zoning bylaw for the property located at 2054 Queen Street. This bylaw is ready for adoption.
Adoption's been moved by Councillor Ross, seconded by Councillor Barkman. Any comments or questions on this item? Again, nice to see it over the finish line. All those in favor? And the motion carries. I have no new business or business arising out of public hearing, so I don't see anybody else raising their hand on new business.
Oh, what you want to head out?
It is a quick draw here. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Barkman and Councillor Gibson seconded. All those in favor? We are adjourned.